Hey, Pokemon fans! Do you secretly have a fetish to take pictures of Pokemon doing in weird positions? Then I've got the game for you! New Pokemon Snap, out now. Ah.
Well, okay.
that's that's it.
Listen, Aegis, you promised me if I did one Pokemon video for me, or for you, I wouldn't have to do it again. And I was concerned about your adult attraction to Pokemon. And now you've given away that it is an actual attraction to Pokemon. So
Winter, you said I could peek at you. Why you no respond to my text?
uh, um,
I
I'm gonna
sent
Snorlax on that joke, and I'm gonna ignore that.
I sent I
All right, well,
sent I sent you my superior. Please respond.
I think we should just get on to the conversation.
This is a Pokemon Snap review for those who can't get that yet.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, we're gonna do Pokemon Snap review. I have not actually played the game. I don't own the game. Aegis owns it. So I think the way we're gonna do this is I'm gonna ask questions as the unobservant outsider, and Aegis is gonna answer questions as the unobservant insider. How does that sound?
It sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a minute to recompose myself here. All right, so let's start this off the right way. Did you play the original Pokemon Snap, Aegis?
I played the hell out of it when I was like 6 or 7 when it came out. I was absolute dog shit at it. My neighbor, who knew how to beat the levels properly, how to take good pictures of Mew, use the pester balls of all Pokemon. He was like a little guide for me. So thanks, Mitch. But I played it a lot when I was younger. My sister played the game a lot. It was kind of one where we both played together. Fast forward to like 20 years later, my girlfriend and I actually played a fuck ton of it when it first came out. She played about maybe close to 20 hours last weekend, and since it release day up until now, I've probably logged about 18 hours. Safe to say, we both gotten our money's worth.
Nice. So it is an 18-hour long game, or what would you say the base campaign length is?
Well, I would say the base campaign length, if you don't feel like you have to go back and upgrade each of the levels to the maximum and like, catch most of, if not all, of the Pokemon and the legendaries, you can look at about 15 to 25 hour campaign, which is pretty decent for the price tag.
Yeah, it's pretty long. I remember the first game was only maybe 4 or 5 hours long when you played it right.
It only had 6 levels. It was pretty short.
And how many levels does this game have? And what was kind of I have other questions, but like how many levels were in this game?
So there were 12 levels, and each level, I think most of them actually had a day version and a night version, and in both of them, different Pokemon would like be interacting like in the environments, either sleeping during the night or like awake and like flying around and stuff, or like bothering other Pokemon and things.
Right. So even though there was, say, two versions of each level, once you cleared one of those levels once in day and night cycle, was there a lot of replayability going back and redoing, say, the night cycle 3 or 4 times?
So this is actually where this game really improves on the original. So the original, you go through, you take pictures, you get your ratings. In this one, you do as well, and based on the number of points you get per rating of a picture, that'll advance your levels experience. And so, say you're on like a beach level, and you advance it to level 2. Well, now the beach during the day will have different Pokemon. Uh, Similar ones, but there'll be a couple of new ones, or there'll be the current ones that are doing different things to give you different kinds of pictures. Because now there's 1 star pictures all the way up to 4 star pictures, and you can get different ratings from copper all the way up to platinum. So there's a lot of incentive to replay. It's almost like a Metroidvania style game, very light elements of it because you unlock certain things like your apples or your fluff fruit, and you get like what are in this game they used to be called the pester balls. You go back into the levels and you throw them at different things in the environment, whether it be Pokemon or flowers, and that triggers different events to happen in the level.
Oh, interesting. And is it still a rail shooter or is it more open world now?
So it's still a rail shooter, but there's different points in each of the levels where you can actually scan it, and it'll actually take you on a different path in the same level. So there's probably one or two different options at each level that are like that.
Okay, so you get some variability, but it still does follow the linear pathing mostly from the original game.
Yep, yep, right.
Do you think do you think that's a good thing or do you think that's a bad thing?
I think, I think, okay, so this kind of ideology that I share can kind of be applied to, linear based games or semi-linear based games versus open world. When it's a linear game, the developer kind of has an idea of how they want you to progress through the level, and they can script different events or Pokemon interactions based on you passing through them once. And I think the
Right.
fact that the game has been designed like that kind of shows a lot of quality in the level design. If you could just zip around anywhere you want, well, maybe they'd have to keep scripting Pokemon interactions to be different from different angles. You know, to move back as almost like a circular motion. Whereas, in the beach level, for instance, you can see Machamp at one point either on a rock, but to go through again, it might be swimming and being chased by a Sharpedo, and it'll kind of go off screen eventually. And if it was open world, you might have to just wait around and maybe it never comes back.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So you're complimentary of the more rail-based gameplay, and I'm a little surprised by that. I would have thought that was something that you would like to have seen change. But I get your point. For the game that it is, it works.
Yep, precisely.
So we've already talked very briefly here about these topics, but let's get into it for real. What did you think of the Pokemon in the game? How many were there? Considering I think at this point we have over 800 Pokemans, and you just brought up animation. Tell me a little more about how they Pokemon themselves feel.
Okay, so the original Pokemon Snap had a dex of 151. There was like 68. Now the dex is close to 900, and I think there's about 200-ish Pokemon in this game. Now that sounds like it's a very small fraction, which it is, but for each of the different Pokedexes throughout the games, for Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, etc., you have a decent representation of Pokemon from each region in this game. And that lends a lot of credence and benefits to the animators, making the Pokemon actually feel like they're more real than they are actually. Like it's a video game, yes, but Pokemon will react and recoil when you throw an apple at them. They will run around and chase other Pokemon. They will bite at you. They will maybe kind of block away like a Snorlax. Some of those elements, they were loosely developed and introduced in the first game, but this one actually, has a lot more Pokemon on the palette to work with, and I think that really showed just the quality. And if you compare Snap to like Pokemon Sword and Shield, the animations for attacks in those games, they're very cookie cutter. They have to apply to, say different Pokemon using Ember or Tackle. They have to use the same animation style, just with a different, block of a Pokemon doing the attack. And so it makes it feel like each Pokemon is unique.
Okay, interesting. So you would say that the animation and the general Pokemon, you would say that even though it's a limited portrayal here, the ones that are portrayed are very well done.
Oh man, yes, of course. Like a lot of comparisons were comparing Snap actually to Sword and Shield or Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. That may have gotten reversed, but because people were like, why can't Game Freak do animations of this quality? And that's definitely a legitimate question, but also different studio focusing on this game with a more limited Pokedex. And
Right.
yeah, so that there's a pro and a con there, but ideally, we would see this kind of animation style in the main series games. I don't think we ever will, but it'd be nice.
Right. So that sort of leads into my next question. The Pokemon are well animated. The gameplay is entertaining. It sounds like it's still a linear rail shooter with some variability. Um, but overall, in say 18, 20 hours, would you say the game was variable in play style? Would you say it was simply consistent that even though it was different Pokemon, better animations, you were doing the exact same thing over and over again? And if you were, do you see that as a drawback or were you thoroughly entertained for the entire playthrough?
Well, look, it's not making or breaking the mold. I compare this game to last year when COVID started. Everybody was playing Animal Crossing. It was this nice, comforting game that was chill and you had things to do and it was fun and not stressful. Pokemon Snap, I think this year kind of is in a similar vein to Animal Cross from last year. You know, each level you might have different Pokemon and different biomes for sure, but at the end of the day, you're on a rail, you're taking pictures, you're throwing balls, like not balls, apples, or the Pester balls to try and get Pokemon to do different things. It's gonna be that throughout the entire game. But
Right.
if you're a fan of the Pokemon and the different Pokemon you see and the different things they can do, that's kind of what pushes you forward and to keep seeing things.
No, that makes sense. So even though you see a limitation, the variability, you'd say it didn't ruin or reduce the entertainment value of the game.
And what I would say too is actually, I wouldn't call them strictly boss fights, but there's 4 or 5 different encounters in the game where you'll go into this den or into this like certain level designated for a specific boss. You got Meganium, you've got Volcarona, Steelix, Milotic, uh, and there's definitely one more, but you have to like wait for the Pokemon to have this glow effect, which is called Illumina, and that's there's a story behind it, and it's like this old like Pokemon photographer, like, researcher, and it's associated with meteors and just this energy, and you have to wait till the Pokemon does like these certain movements or they start glowing, and you take pictures of them, and then you can go back in those levels and you can level them up, same as the main story game levels.
Right. Okay. Cool. So you've established that the animations are good. You've established that the game follows a methodology that allows you to enjoy the Pokemon that you see. You've established that you believe it's fun, it's entertaining, even though it is repetitive. You don't see it as a drawback. Tell me something. On my end, when I played Pokemon Snap, now as a kid, I know the original Pokemon Snap now doesn't feel like this, but when I was a kid, the biggest upside to Pokemon Snap was that unlike the games, you felt like you were in the Pokemon universe. It felt very breathed in, it felt very lived in. You got to see the Pokemon just existing. Does this game give you that feel? Does it have enough depth in the design to feel like it's an actual breathed in, breathed in world, or does it feel like it's set up almost like a zoo for you to go through and just see what they want you to see and be done with it? Or does it really feel like this would be like a natural, you know what I'm saying, a breathed in real world?
I think they tried to make it a natural breathed-in world as much as they could. Like there's certain levels. Like what was cool about this game is one of the levels, for instance, is you actually go underwater. So you enter
Right.
a water biome and you see like all like the water types. Like uh, you'll see Feebas, you'll see Tentacruel and Tenta. I don't think you'll see Tentacool, Mantine, Whalmer, different water Pokemon you'd expect to see under the water, and they're actually swimming around in this environment, and it kind of feels like you're swimming through a coral reef, and then you can go into like a cave, and you'll see kind of like quillfish or some Pokemon that might be a little further deep under the ground that you'd expect like a pufferfish kind of thing. They try to make it feel real. There's different Pokemon that are in like the first level. It's like the rolling hills, and you'll see like a little river, and you'll see Pokemon there. So I think they tried to make it feel uh, I guess as realistic or believable of an environment as possible. Open plains, you'll see like uh, Bulafont, which are basically the Gen 5 Tauros. You'll see Executor near the tree line on the beach. You'll see Sharpedo in the water. You'll see Wingull and Pelipper flying in the air or by one of their nests with their eggs. It does have a real feel.
Okay. All right. So then the biomes themselves, are they variable enough? Are they, again, breathed in, but are they textured right? Do you actually feel like you're in a nature setting? And give me some examples of the biomes you really like and maybe one or two that you felt like were a letdown, if you had any.
Uh, okay. So there's some obvious winners. You have like a haunted forest, which has like ghost type Pokemon, but also in part of that level, you go into like this area, like you go back and forth between like a haunted forest and also an open like sunny and bright part of that same forest. And at the one point you'll see like ghost Pokemon, but then you'll go into like this open bright space and you'll see like uh it's almost like not a cutscene, but you go through like a scripted little event, and you go into the next area, and that's where like the scenery will change. You'll see like Pokemon that are like Deerlings or Sawsbuck, or you'll see Superior Pokemon that you'd expect to be in that biome. Another good one was like there's like an Arctic or an ice level, and you see a lot of like ice types or Pokemon that could survive in that environment. There's a volcano level, obviously. Uh, there's the underwater level, which I liked, and there's the beach level, which not the same Pokemon, but there's a little bit of similarity because there's water. But then there's also a water level where you're literally floating along on top of the water. I felt like that kind of level was it borrowed a bit from the beach level.
Right.
So there there wasn't like there was still some distinction because you weren't attached to land at all. You were on top of the water, but there was also that similar element in the beach level. Uh, I mean, the basic first level is like you're running through the rolling hills and you're going through a couple of little caves and you're going by the water side, and then you end in like this big meadow, and that was cool.
Right.
Um, what else? I really like the underwater level. That was really cool. And there's also a cave level, which you go into like this cave, and there's all like you got Crobat, you've got like some ghost types like Gengar, and you'll see like some dinosaur Pokemon like Rampardos in there, and Crobat. Pokemon you'd expect to actually be in a cave. Uh, I think they fleshed out different biomes, and they tried to make each one feel distinct. I think the water levels are the ones where they're probably some of the strongest, but also the weakest because just of how similar there are. Because there's three different water levels that are at least partially have water or are totally encapsulated with water. But they did, they may have done their best.
Right. So there were no levels that you distinctly stood out as lackluster or weak. You'd say it's all killer, no filler.
Yep, precisely. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, I guess that leads sort of into my last question. What would you rate this game, and what improvements could you see being made to make it a higher rating?
I would probably give this game a solid 8.5 or a 9. What I liked about the original was there was different kind of ways you could interact with the Pokemon to make them evolve. Whether it's making Slowpoke, I think, put his tail in the water to get a Shelter to bite it so he evolves into a Slowbro, or knocking Charmeleon into a volcano with an apple to make Charizard come out. There was no scripted evolutions like that, which you had to do some events in game. But where this game does kind of pull ahead a little bit, and in voicing this out, it kind of should be maybe a 9, is in the first game, there was Mew. In this game, there's, I think, a dozen different legendary Pokemon, which there's one for each different level. And in order to do that, you have to do certain things in the level to make them come about at some point. There's Celebi, there's Manaphy, there's I think Mew's back in it. Like there's Xerneas, which if you're playing Pokemon Go, he's actually a raid Pokemon right now, so that's kind of cool. Uh, Cons, they probably could have experimented with like an off rails level or make it little feel a little more like free and open world. So I mean, the Rails sections of the game, it works, but they could have experimented a little bit. They could have maybe widened the Pokedex a little bit more, uh, added in methods to make Pokemon evolve that you could actually be in charge of. But I think overall, for what it is, it's definitely a solid 8.5 or a 9, and you're gonna get your money's worth.
Okay, well, then I will accept that. I think that I'm glad to hear that after what, 15 years, there's a second Pokemon Snap game. It didn't let people down. I had a ton of friends who hadn't touched Pokemon since they were kids, and that even includes Pokemon Go, who really wanted this game. And I'm glad that I'm hearing from you that it's getting a stamp of approval.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough.
Okay, well, I think we should end on that positive note. We do it so rarely when we're talking about horror and stuff. Guys, I had a good time. I'm glad I got to talk to you about this. Unfortunately, I won't be able to buy the game because I don't own a Nintendo, but I do like hearing about it. I'll try to look at it on YouTube and see what I think. Aegis, thanks for talking with me.
No problem. Thanks for the interview. Later, guys.